well, it was the aircraft carrier is about, probably once we have all our planes and everything, there are about 6,000 people. So it's pretty much its own independent city out there. You have everything that you would want. You have to be self-sustaining. So you have barbershop, stores, bank. It's pretty much just like its own floating city with people that could have every type of job, dentists, doctors, operating rooms, pretty much anything you needed had to be on that ship. And so, it was made for everybody to live on for, as long as needed. Then when we're underway, if you run out of food, you get that from other ships, weapons. Once you're out there, there's ships that bring weapons from other ports. Then you just keep being underway, and they bring the bombs and equipment over from other ships. So it's interesting, but you get sick of each other too after seeing the same people. But you look back now, and that was the best thing of it. The guys you were with, even though when you're out there with them for within feet of each other for 6 months at a time, you get sick of it. But you look back now, and that was a good time. It was always crowded. There was lines for everything, and it was just the way that ship. We had a lot of things smaller ships wouldn't have, but they didn't have the people that we had. I know people on other ships, and my division had more people than their entire ship. So we had more people in our division than a submarine has on a whole ship. And so, that was one of the unique things about a carrier, was just the size of it, and until you're on them, you can't believe how big they are. But that's about it. It's just, you work a lot of hours, but then you get a couple days off in any port in Europe or wherever down in the Bahamas, and you have a good time. But you put in your time, then when you get off, you enjoy it. Then you come back to Norfolk for a few months, and then you just go out and do it again. It just, being that it was during the war, and a lot of my time in was, we were still doing things to counteract the Russians. So we'd be up in the North Atlantic, and our planes would have to launch because they're on the radar, they see Russian planes coming at us. Things like that made it interesting. Now that you look back, it's interesting. When you're 20 years old, you didn't care about that. You just went day by day. But one good thing, we were in port in France once, and the wind picked up, and the ship started dragging the anchor, and we were gonna, probably soon run into the beach. So, everything was in a standby condition, the reactors, the main engines, and, within probably a minute of them realizing there's a trouble, we got underway with just probably a third of the crew. And, we had to go out, for a couple days till the wind stopped blowing. But, that was something that, it was different, and you had all that training just in case something like that happened. And within a minute, that ship left that port and was underway. And just like going through the Suez Canal, you're always ready, but going through that little canal, there's land on both sides, but there's always two guys in their jets ready to get launched. If something would happen, that you're just always at a state of readiness. And things like that are always neat. That no matter what happened, there were plans to take care of it in port. Like if they'd have boats that come up, there was guys. We had a Marine group too. Then we had some 50 caliber machine guns that the Marines would get on, and to be able to shoot if some little boat came up, things like that. But most of it was just typical day-to-day on the ship, doing your jobs. And then when you got in the port, you sort of made up for that. being on a ship, there's nothing glamorous about it. You just do your job. That's what you were trained to do. You do it, you shut up, and keep on going. The next day, you never know what's going to happen out there. It got a little, we'd have people that got, on the flight deck mostly, they would get either killed by getting blown overboard, or a plane would come in and a propeller would hit hit a guy working on the flight deck. But as far as during combat operations, we had one plane that got shot down. I don't know if they ever recovered the pilot, but as far as the ship's crew, you're pretty much just contained in your ship there. It was unique. Now you look back at it, though, it was exciting, but back then it was just what you did. You weren't in there for anything other than the guys. You had the guys you were with, and that's sort of that was your family out there, and you did what you had to take care of each other.
I was a vertical construction platoon leader. We did a lot of construction around base camps to upgrade facilities, as well as doing stuff in the local populace to make it more habitable for the population. Always wanted to. Even growing up, always wanted to join the military. I guess patriotic duty is part of it, but it's something I wanted to do. I felt I needed to do. I signed up. I enjoyed it. Did ROTC in college. I enjoyed it and kept with it. I've been all over the U.S. Overseas conflict was Iraq and Kuwait. Did a couple weeks in Germany, and then stateside I've been in Fort Bragg, my main duty station on active duty. I was in Fort Benning, Fort Lewis, Washington. I was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, Fort Dix, New Jersey. We went, and they have a training center, a big military training center in Hohenfels, Germany, and they have a fake city they do operations in, and we help build up the fake city to do operations, urban operations. Yes. The Global War on Terrorism, Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal for serving overseas, Army Commendations, Army Achievement Medals, Army Service Ribbon, Overseas Service, Parachutist Badge, Air Assault Badge, and Second Tab. I took my basic training in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, as well as to be a combat engineer. And then once I got my commission, I went active duty, and as an officer, I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri again for my officer basic course. It's a lot simpler than it is over here in the United States. Didn't have to worry too much about the day-to-day business. Kind of woke up, you kind of did your job, whatever your job was. Come back, have a meeting, one or two meetings in the evening, and go to the gym. It's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple life. The biggest constraint or biggest thing about it was just the environments, just the heat and the sand. As one of the biggest concerns, I guess. More or less, we built structures from the ground up. We were supposed to aid the U.S. Withdrawal from Iraq down. We did wash racks, vehicle wash racks, equipment wash racks. Built various base camps around, upgraded facilities. Built tactical operation centers for the units posted there, upgraded roads. We did a big amnesty point, I guess a customs station between Iraq and Kuwait, where units coming from Iraq down south into Kuwait. They go through there, it's a checkpoint for them, they download any type of equipment they have. Also they're in communication, so people are tracking them, tracking their movement, they know where they are at the stocking station. So they're one of our big projects before we left. No, not really, not offhand. I mean, just whole experience was, I guess, in my opinion, for me, it was a good experience. I grew a lot, got to experience people from all over the country, all over the world. Just, I don't know, just seeing a lot of people sacrifice, both soldiers serving overseas as well as family members here at home. That's the biggest thing. Like whenever I left, I was up and gone on short notice. Even though I left at home, my wife still had the responsibilities of the household. When my son was a year old, so she had those responsibilities placed upon her, which all fell on her lap when I left. So I don't think enough credit is given to the families back home, or enough recognition is given to them back home. But you know, the bus leaves. Usually, the U.S. soldiers are greeted. They're escorted out with police escorts. People line the streets wishing goodwill. But when the wife comes, or the wife and the parents go back home, or the husband goes back home, it's an empty house, and their normal daily routine picks up as normal.